I lost an entire row of beefsteak tomatoes one July, and I want to tell you exactly why, because it took me almost 12 years to figure out what I was doing wrong. 12 years of split skins, 12 years of yellow leaves crawling up the stems, 12 years of that ugly black sunken patch on the bottom of the fruit that ruins a perfectly good tomato in a single afternoon. And here's the part that is going to sting a little. The mistake that was killing my tomatoes was not a fungus. It was not a pest. It was not the weather. And it was not the variety. It was the mulch. Specifically, it was how I was using the mulch. And I will bet you a fresh-pulled cucumber that 90% of the folks watching this video are making the exact same mistake right now without even knowing it. So stick with me, because today I am going to walk you through exactly what that mulch mistake is, why it silently destroys your tomato harvest year after year, and how to fix it in about 20 minutes with stuff you probably already have in the garage. And stay with me to the end, because I am going to share an old trick I picked up from a fella who has been growing tomatoes outside Lancaster for 46 years, a trick that turns mulch from a slow killer into the single biggest yield booster in your whole garden. Now, before I get into the fix, I want to tell you how I figured this out, because I did not read it in a book. I learned it the hard way, in my own dirt, with my own ruined fruit. For most of my growing life, I mulched my tomatoes the way my granddad mulched his, and the way the seed packet on the back of the tomato variety told me to. As soon as I got the seedlings in the ground in early May, I would go right out to the shed, grab a couple of bales of straw or a sack of bark chips, and I would pile that mulch up nice and thick, 4, 5, sometimes 6 inches deep, all the way around the base of every plant, right up snug against the stem. I thought I was doing the plant a favor. I thought I was holding moisture in, keeping the weeds down, looking after the roots. The bed looked tidy as a magazine cover. And every single year, by the middle of July, I had the same problems. The lower leaves on every plant turning yellow and curling. Splits running right round the shoulders of my big pinks. Blossom end rot on every 4th Roma. Plants that grew like a rocket in June, and then just stopped, like somebody had pulled the plug. I blamed the weather, I blamed the calcium, I blamed the bag of fertilizer. I sprayed copper, I tried eggshell water, I drove out and bought new seed from a different supplier. None of it really moved the needle. Then, about 4 summers back, I got to talking with an old market gardener at the Saturday Co-op, a fella by the name of Walt, and Walt asked me one simple question. He said, "When you mulch your tomatoes, do you put it down right after you plant, and do you push it up against the stem?" And I said, "Of course I do. That is what everybody does." And Walt just shook his head, smiled that quiet little smile he has, and said that right there is the mistake that is slowly killing your tomatoes. And let me tell you, once he explained it to me, I could not unsee it. So here's the part nobody talks about. Mulch is not a neutral material. Mulch is alive, in a sense. The minute you lay down a thick layer of straw or bark chips or wood mulch, you are not just covering the soil, you are setting up a whole new little ecosystem on top of it. And depending on when you lay it, how thick you lay it, what it is made of, and how close you push it to the plant, that ecosystem either feeds your tomato or it strangles it. There is no in-between. The specific mistake, the one that is silently killing your tomato harvest right now, is laying thick mulch too early in the season and laying it right up against the stem of the plant. That is the mistake. Sounds small, does it not? Sounds harmless. But let me tell you what is happening underneath that mulch when you do that, because once you understand the mechanism, you will never do it again. First thing, tomatoes are warm soil plants. Their roots evolved in the dry valleys of South America, where the ground heats up fast in spring and stays warm well into autumn. A tomato seedling needs the soil around its roots to sit between 60 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit. That is roughly 16 to 21 degrees Celsius before it will really start putting down deep feeder roots. If the soil is colder than that, the plant just sits there and sulks. Now, what does a 4-inch layer of straw or bark do? It insulates. It is doing the same job a winter coat does on a person. If you put that thick blanket of mulch down on cool May soil before that ground has had a proper chance to warm through, you are locking the cold in. You are stopping the sun from doing its job. I have measured this with a soil thermometer myself, 2 beds side by side, same compost, same seedlings, same day. The mulched bed ran a full 8 to 10 degrees Fahrenheit cooler than the bare bed for the entire month of May. 8 degrees does not sound like much, but to a tomato seedling, 8 degrees is the difference between a plant that powers off and a plant that just sits there twiddling its thumbs while June burns away. Second thing, and this is the one that really got me. Mulch piled right up against the stem creates a permanently humid, dark, warm little pocket, exactly where you do not want one. The base of a tomato stem, the part right at soil level, is not designed to be wet around the clock. It needs air. When you bury that stem under 3 or 4 inches of moist mulch, you are inviting in every single fungal pathogen the soil has on offer. Early blight, southern blight, fusarium wilt, stem rot, all of these guys love a damp, dark stem collar. They send their spores up into the lower leaves, and that is the yellowing you see climbing the plant by mid-July. That is not a calcium problem. That is not a watering problem. That is a mulch problem. Third thing, and this one I genuinely did not know for years. Fresh, wood-based mulch, the cheap bagged bark chips a lot of folks pick up at the garden center, will actually pull nitrogen out of your soil while it decomposes. It is called nitrogen tie-up. The microbes that break down fresh wood need nitrogen to do the job, and they will steal it right out of the top inch or 2 of your soil to get it. Guess where your tomato seedling has its little feeder roots in the first 4 weeks after planting? That is right up there in that top inch or 2. So you have got a cold soil, a humid stem, and now a hungry plant on top of it, all because of one bag of mulch laid down at the wrong time. No wonder the harvest collapses by August. Fourth thing, and then I will get into the fix, I promise. Thick mulch laid before the soil warms creates a beautiful winter palace for slugs, voles, and pillbugs. They tunnel underneath, they breed in the cool damp, and they come up at night and chew the bark right off your tender young stems. I lost 3 plants in a single weekend one May to slug damage, and I never even saw the slugs because they were living 1.5 inches under the straw. So, 4 mechanisms. Cold soil, fungal stem collar, nitrogen tie-up, and pest hotel. All of it caused by one harmless-looking bale of straw laid down too early and pushed too close. Walt was right. It is the mulch mistake that is slowly killing your tomatoes. Now let me show you exactly how to fix it, because the fix is actually beautiful in how simple it is. The single most important rule is this: wait. Just wait. Do not mulch your tomatoes the day you plant them. Do not mulch them the week after. The right time to lay your tomato mulch is when 3 things have happened. 1, the soil temperature at 4 inches deep has held above 65 degrees Fahrenheit. That is about 18 degrees Celsius for at least 5 days running. 2, the plants have grown tall enough that their lowest leaves are at least 8 to 10 inches off the ground, so you have got clean stem to work with. And 3, the daytime air temperatures are consistently in the 70s or warmer, and the worst of the spring rains have moved through. In most parts of the country, that lines up to roughly mid to late June. In the warmer southern zones, you might be ready by the end of May. In the cooler northern zones, sometimes you are waiting until the 1st or 2nd week of July. The point is, the calendar does not decide. The soil decides. Get yourself a cheap soil thermometer, $8 or $9 at any farm store, and let the dirt tell you when it is time. Next rule. And this is the one Walt drilled into me. Keep the mulch off the stem. I want you to imagine a donut around the base of your tomato plant. The hole in the middle of the donut is bare soil, and that hole is at least 3 to 4 inches across in every direction from the stem. The dough of the donut, the actual mulch, starts there and rings out from there. That bare collar of soil right around the stem lets the base of the plant breathe, lets the morning sun and the breeze dry it out, and stops every fungal disease in its tracks. I have not had a case of stem rot since the day I started leaving that donut hole, and I am not exaggerating. Third rule, get the depth right. 2 inches is the magic number. 2 inches of mulch, no more. I know that goes against what most people do, and I know it feels skimpy when you are spreading it, but here's what is happening with 2 inches. You get full weed suppression because you are blocking the light to weed seeds. You get about a 65 to 70% reduction in soil moisture loss, which is most of the benefit. And you do not insulate the soil so heavily that you trap the cold or build up a damp underworld for slugs. 2 inches breathes, 4 inches suffocates. Fourth rule, choose the right material. Not all mulch is created equal, and I will tell you my personal ranking after testing pretty much everything you can put down. My number 1 choice for tomatoes, hands down, is shredded straw, ideally from a bale that has been sitting open in the shed for a few weeks, so it is good and dry. Straw breathes, it lets water through, it breaks down nice and slow over a season, and it does not pull much nitrogen because it is mostly already broken down structurally. Run it through a leaf shredder if you have one, or just shake it out and pull the long pieces apart with your hands. My second choice is shredded leaves, the kind you saved from the autumn before. If you have got a pile of last year's oak or maple leaves run through a mower or a shredder, that stuff is gold. It breaks down slowly, it feeds the soil as it goes, and it has the perfect structure for letting air down to the root zone. My third choice, and this is one a lot of folks overlook, is grass clippings. But you have got to use them right. Fresh grass clippings laid on too thick will mat together, go anaerobic, and start to stink within 2 days. The trick is to spread them out on a tarp or on the driveway for 2 or 3 days first. Let them dry until they are pale brown and crispy, and then lay them down no more than 1.5 inches deep. Done that way, they release nitrogen slowly as they break down, and they actually feed the plant while they mulch. What I do not recommend for tomatoes is fresh wood chips, dyed bark mulch, or anything colored. The fresh wood pulls nitrogen, like I told you, and the dyed stuff is a mystery in terms of what is actually in it. Save the bark mulch for around your shrubs and your trees where it belongs. Now here is the bonus, the trick I told you about at the start, the Lancaster trick. The fella's name is Henry. He has been growing tomatoes since 1978, and the year I met him at a swap meet, he had heirloom brandywines on his table, the size of a grown man's fist. I asked him what his secret was, and he told me about a method he calls double-layer mulching. Here's exactly how to do it. When you finally lay your mulch in mid to late June, before you put down your 2 inches of straw, you first lay down a thin 1/2 inch layer of finished compost across the bare soil around each plant. Just a thin sprinkle, not a heavy dump. You are talking maybe a couple of handfuls per plant, ringed out in that donut shape, again keeping the bare collar around the stem. Then, on top of that compost, you lay your 2 inches of dry shredded straw. What happens is genuinely remarkable. The compost layer becomes a slow-release feeder right where the feeder roots live, in the top 2 inches of soil. Every time it rains or you water, a little bit of nutrition leaches down into the root zone. Meanwhile, the straw on top protects that compost from drying out, from washing away, and from the sun cooking off all the nitrogen. The compost feeds the plant and the soil biology, and the straw keeps the whole system humming. The first season I tried it, my brandywines went from giving me about 7 or 8 pounds per plant to a little over 15. I am not saying you are going to double your harvest like I did, and I am not promising the moon. But I will tell you this, every gardener I have shared this trick with has come back and told me their tomatoes looked healthier, the leaves stayed greener longer, and the fruit set was noticeably bigger. That is good enough for me. All right, before I let you go, I want to walk you through the 4 common mulching patterns I see in nearly every garden I visit, because these are the habits that quietly cost folks a harvest every single year, and I want you to be able to spot them in your own beds. First pattern, the volcano mulch. You see it everywhere, not just on tomatoes, but on trees too. Folks pile the mulch up against the stem in a little cone, like a volcano. It looks neat. It looks deliberate. But it is creating that humid stem collar I told you about earlier, and it is the #1 cause of basal stem rot in tomatoes. Pull that mulch back. Donut, not volcano. Always. Second pattern, the carpet mulch. This is when folks lay down 4, 5, even 6 inches of mulch in one go, thinking thicker is better. It is not. Anything over 3 inches starts trapping cold, blocking air, and turning into a slug palace. 2 inches is the sweet spot. If you have already got a thick carpet down, go out there with a rake this evening and pull about half of it off. Compost it. Your plants will thank you within a week. Third pattern, the early bird mulch. This is the mistake I made for 12 years. Mulching the day you plant. Just because the seedling is in the ground does not mean the soil is ready for a coat. Wait for warm soil, wait for warm air, wait until the plant is showing real growth. Patience here is genuinely free fertilizer. Empty space around a young tomato is not laziness. It is sunlight reaching the dirt and warming the roots. Fourth pattern, the wrong material. Cypress mulch, fresh pine bark chips, dyed red garden center stuff. Save it for shrubs. For tomatoes, your goal is something that breathes, breaks down within one season, and adds organic matter as it goes. Straw, leaves, well-aged grass. That is the holy trinity for tomato mulch. And then, one last thing I want you to think about, and this ties everything together. Mulch is not something you set and forget. It is something you adjust through the season. By the time August rolls around and the heat is on, you might want to top up that 2-inch layer with another ½ inch to fight evaporation. By September, when you want the fruit to ripen and the soil to dry down a touch to concentrate the sugars, you can actually pull some of that mulch back to let the soil breathe. Read the plant, read the weather, and adjust as you go. That is the real secret. Not the mulch itself, but how you use it across the months. So if you take just one thing away from this video, let it be this. The mulch mistake that is slowly killing your tomatoes is laying it too early, too thick, and too close to the stem. The fix is, wait, leave a donut, 2 inches of straw, and feed that soil with a thin layer of compost underneath. Do those 4 things this season, and I am telling you, your tomato patch is going to look different by the middle of August. The leaves will stay green further up the stem. The fruit will set heavier. You will see less cracking, less yellowing, less of that black blossom end rot that breaks every gardener's heart. And if this kind of plain-spoken, hard-earned, neighbor-over-the-fence advice is the kind of thing you came here for, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button down below. I put out a new video like this every single week, all of it from my own backyard, all of it from my own mistakes, and all of it tested in real dirt before I share it with you. In the comments down below, I want to hear 2 things from you. First, what kind of mulch have you been using around your tomatoes up until now, and how thick have you been laying it on? Be honest, no judgment. I made every one of these mistakes myself. And second, are you going to give that double-layer compost and straw method a try this season? If you do, come back in 3 or 4 weeks and tell me what you are seeing on your plants. I read every comment, and your real-world results help every other gardener watching. All right, that is the mulch mistake, and that is the fix. Until next time, keep your hands in the dirt and your eyes on the harvest. I will see you out by the fence.